All right. Welcome in today. I'm with one of my clients, Trip. We've been working together now since probably November of last year.
Yeah, I think in October, end October, 1st of November, right around there.
Yeah, and it's April of 2025 if you are watching this in the future, just for context. And over that time, we've done a few different things, which we're going to dive into today on the interview. But I just wanted to share some of the process and what it's been like working together, and how it's changed a bit of the way Tripp's positioned himself online and been able to really build the business that he wants to. We're only just getting started, so we're just tip of the iceberg here. But as we have been getting started, it's just been a lot of fun in the process. So I thought this would be valuable for the audience and some other coaches who are considering the online and wondering how to do that. But first, Trip, if anybody doesn't know you, let's start with a little bit of your backstory and just a bit about yourself and what you've done over the years, and ultimately we'll get into why you decided to work together and what we've built since then.
Yeah, Trip Eisenhower. I was played college golf, went on to play professional golf, and played for actually 17 years. And of that, I played through the Corn Ferry Tour and on the PGA Tour. And then, or surprise to me, they asked me to come in and do something for Golf Channel. I live near the studio in Orlando. A couple of years after I had to end my playing career because of a back injury, and ever since then I've been doing that. So I've been doing that now 14 years, working for Golf Channel on air as an analyst, and I do both live tournaments and in studio stuff. So it's been quite a ride. And a couple of years ago, I basically my contract with Golf Channel used to be, a solid contract for 45 weeks a year. And 2 years ago, they basically just made my contract where I was almost a freelancer, but they were guaranteeing me a certain amount of weeks. But I only got paid when I worked, so I started doing something that I love, which is helping junior golfers and collegiate golfers basically learn what tour players know, how to practice properly, the mental game. I have content that I did with Dr. Bob Rotella from a project I did when I was on tour with him, and had put that together into a format called Gap Golf Coach. And, that started, like I said, 2 years ago. And really, the first year, um, as Dan told me, if there's a list of everything you could do wrong, I pretty much did it when we started. So I still, have a job with Golf Channel. So it wasn't like I was starved, missing food on the table or anything. But I made a lot of mistakes. And then I saw some of Dan's things on Instagram, and pretty much reached out to him. And here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a while your story is very unique, not many people have played at the top levels of the game and then gone on to also have a successful career with the Golf Channel. But I would say there's a lot of parallels between a lot of other coaches out there who grew up, have their own story inside of playing this game and then transitioning into coaching and teaching because whatever level, they dropped off at, or even if they maybe played at the highest level too, but then we're looking for something else to do after that. Uh, Many struggle with how to turn their expertise and knowledge into something that generates consistent revenue and income for them, and that's really what we focused on building the base of and establishing more of a system. And actually, like you mentioned, there's a lot of things that people try that aren't really effective. And there's so much out there on the
Guilty.
internet. Yeah,
I'm guilty.
there's so much out there on the internet, and there's not a lot of consensus on a real structure to this process. It's kind of similar, it's not too similar to teaching the game of golf. There's a lot of ideas, but when you look at the similarities of the best players in the game, you find a lot of overlap on what they
Mhm.
do really well. And that's a lot of like your messaging right now, what you're helping junior and college level players, and even those desiring to be at the highest levels of professional
Yeah.
golf with, is that understanding what those principles are behind the best in the world. And you got to see it firsthand for 17 years. And now obviously another 14 years of watching it on the Golf Channel and analyzing it. They, with that said, what do you think? What were you trying before, just as far as
Yeah.
like to get this all to work? Because I want to probably, have coaches who are doing that same thing kind of connect with why that wasn't working. And then we'll talk about what to do instead and how that might be valuable for somebody that is watching.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a little bit of hubris on my part, thinking that people knew my name in the sport, and they do for the most part because they see me on television. They've seen me on television for 14 years, and that I thought would carry enough weight that would be enough marketing that people just seeing that, and then my association with the tour players and Bob Rotella's name. I figured all that was like that was enough bait to catch fish, basically, and that's where I spent a lot of money, on the Google search stuff, the um, all the different rabbit holes that you try to go down to let just get my name out there and a little bit more, and that'll bring people to the site. And it was getting traffic to my site, but it wasn't doing any conversions because there wasn't a compelling enough package. So, I think that a lot of people will say, well, I have a successful this part, and that will automatically carry over into internet marketing. And, as I said, it was hubris on my part, but you live and you learn. And I learned very quickly, as you reminded me that's not how it effectively works. And I'll give you all the credit for the Rotella stuff I had was kind of disjointed. I have, like I said, about 5 hours of exclusive Bob Rotella on video content that's absolutely, I mean, it's very, very, very valuable. And I thought, well, that would just sell itself on its own. And you were the one that said, no, we've got to put that into a package that's sellable. And it was a great idea. And it really, we're at the, like you said, the tip of the iceberg, but I feel like we're a snowball that's just starting to roll a little bit downhill finally. But had it not been put into that kind of package, I don't even think, even putting it in the marketing the right way would have helped, but not, what you advised me to do was I think invaluable.
Yeah, and I think that's we'll get into the details a little bit more on like what you were attempting to sell previously and why I see some like flaws in that model, especially with coaches starting in the internet marketing game and why that's maybe not the best route to go initially. But yeah, the things that you just touched on there, it's really important that we have an offer that makes sense to the audience that we're trying to attract and that allows for us to, sell it in a way that aligns with the offer that we're putting out there. And basically, what Tripp was attempting to do before, and I think this is a mistake that potentially can happen for a lot of coaches who see what big names online are potentially doing now and are attempting to reverse engineer it in their own way, is we had a membership site set up at gapgolfcoach.com. And so what we were doing is there's this website, which, looks great. Tripp had put hours and hours of time and energy into building out this membership site, pricing it at $29.95 a month, and then
Mm-hmm.
having the website built, and then basically just trying to like drive traffic to this website. The fault in this initially, this can work eventually when you have a big personal brand on the internet. Think of like a George Genghis Golf membership site works for him. But the thing that you don't see is the numbers behind that, the amount of traffic that he is driving, and understanding lifetime value metrics of those customers, and then having additional things to sell people to make even more money. And he kind of did that in the right order. The first thing was like getting completely booked out one-on-one and then building a brand around sharing clips from what he did online. So that once he had 100,000 plus followers on different platforms, he was able to then package a membership site and monetize it effectively. But every iteration since then, I would imagine behind the scenes is there his now suite of probably like people that work with him is just trying to optimize lifetime value metrics of people that come to that membership site. When you're starting out, it's a very tough model to go with because
Mm.
you put hours, hundreds of hours into creating this site, paying somebody to build it out for thousands of dollars, to then seeing this like minuscule trickle of like one person signed up this month and I made $30. And you're like, all right, well, how am I going to get 1,000 other people to sign up for this thing so that I can make significant revenue or money and have this be worth all the time that I put in? And I think that's the fault in trying to start in that model or seeing somebody else that is big online doing it and then just kind of trying to replicate it or model it. It's very challenging. So what we did instead was in our first conversations, one was like, is Gap Golf Coach actually the thing that you want to do? And there was components of it that were yes, but a lot of it focused on the Bob Rotella content, the mindset, the preparation, the short game, and helping junior golfers, collegiate level, desiring to play at the next level golfers to implement those concepts and strategies. And what we did is kind of flipped what you were doing before on its head and said, okay, the best way is like, one, you're passionate about that. You have clear expertise in being able to help people do that. Let's go find those junior golfers that are desiring to get the help that you can offer. And let's just find a small group of those who are willing to invest a bit more money in a program that we develop where they get some access to you and all of this amazing content. And let's package that up and go sell that. And that's kind of what we created and you've created. I just kind of like helped kind of direct in the process in the Tournament Mindset Mastery series. So I'd love to for you to talk about that a little bit and what you're doing there. Anybody that's interested in it, it's not just for we've also had other golf coaches interested, right? So if you're a golf coach watching this and you want to talk to Trip about it, it's an amazing product for anybody who works with junior golfers that's looking to up level what they do and how to
Yeah.
potentially be more effective in coaching them. But yeah, you've already had some college teams participate and
Mhm.
coaches reach out to you about taking the course to learn themselves. So yeah, talked about that a little bit in the process of creating it.
Yeah, and basically it was packaging the Rotella material in a compelling way, as you said, integrated with the website that I spent my wheels, running, trying to develop. So we already had that website there. So it was great that we could integrate that into the program of this 6 week training program. And I do have an advantage. I've got the greatest sports psychologist in the game of golf ever, Dr. Bob Rotella, and I have exclusive content. So it took a lot of work there at the initial part to get it into a basically a 6 week package. And we, I think you came up with the name Tournament Mindset Mastery, and that's a catchy phrase that's easy to sell. And then you combine that with pushing, you know, not my expertise much less, but more Dr. Bob Rotella, and we did a beta launch of it where we were aiming to get 10 people in it. And we got close there at when we were ready to launch, and then all of a sudden we had about 8 signed up, and then committed to it. And then all of a sudden, after right before we were ready to launch, about 4 or 5 more came in. And then since then, I think we've had a total of about 15 people in the beta program, which was a discounted price. But the great thing about that was we made some mistakes with the program. I mean, there's some confusion about where some of the videos are that we're going to clear up and clean up. Um, and so when we're, get the price to where we want it and go, we've got people that love the course because we're getting great feedback from the people. So that's good news because you never know till you put it out there. And the feedback I'm getting from people is really, really good. So now we go to the next phase, which is where we are. I think that um, and the other thing I will add that was huge, and Dan will testify to this. I'm a complete moron when it comes to social media. Um, I had following on X just because I was on Golf Channel. I had 18,000 followers and still do, but Instagram was not my forte. And Dan was, I mean, instrumental. And I've had people that know something about Instagram, and they would tell me my Instagram is at least looks like a very nice Instagram now, where before it looked like I was kind of making the decisions, which I was. So, Dan, I mean, that part of it is huge. Having your expertise in that has been, another piece of the puzzle I've got to mention, along with everything that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, a couple key things I think there is like the launching without it being perfect. And I'm big on that. And because you never know, you never really you get feedback from the marketplace. So I think in design, trying to design this like perfect product and going the route of like membership and courses and building out hundreds of hours of content and investing in sites and all this like back end stuff to try to build this perfect thing. I think that often it leads to disaster with somebody that's trying to like build an online business because there's all this like build up and then you have it's rightfully so you have this expectation set about your launch and what it's going to do and how amazing it's going to be and it almost never lives up to that expectation about the launch and there's always iteration and changes that we're going to have to make anyway because the market, our clients, our customers, people that buy our things, they're the ones who give us the feedback that we ultimately need. So while we did take the time to put together an MVP, like a minimum viable product of what this was going to look like, it's invaluable now that we have about 15 people going through it to iterate, make it even better, and understand that, yeah, some stuff went wrong with some of the tech and people finding the right things on the back end, but that's okay. Like they're all still happy. They're loving the information inside of the course. And that's the iterative process. So instead of waiting till something was perfect to try to launch, you know, we sent it and got a great initial beta launch of the program. And now we're in motion. Because like that's such a big thing is the 15 people in there, they're going to be so powerful in the marketing to get the next 15.
Hmm.
And that's really huge. The You mentioned Instagram as well too. I'm a big fan for anybody that doesn't know this and is watching. I like Instagram and YouTube for golf coaches and instructors online. They're just my preferred platforms. They align well with the audience that we're trying to attract and the usually the visual nature of golf in general. Does that mean you can't use other platforms? No, it doesn't. There's a lot of value in other platforms too. But if I had to pick two to focus on, those usually are the ones that I choose. So we did a lot to rebrand Trips Instagram to make it actual converting asset, to put a lot of time into content. The nice thing, Trip's been on camera for 14 years. So all I have to do is tell him, hey, say this and go shoot a video and send it back to me. And that is really nice to have. But if you're trying to get well known on the internet and also sell something there, you have to produce content. You have to be on social media channels and you have to position yourself in a way that would make somebody who's a complete stranger on the internet want to buy something from you. And while not everybody, there's referrals and stuff like that. So not everybody in the program is a complete stranger, but we have had complete strangers who didn't know Trip before a couple months ago now come and pay him. And they're all absolutely loving it and referring other people and all sorts
Yeah.
of stuff. So awesome. With that said, too, what were, where did you find me? Because I know you mentioned like seeing some of my stuff but do you remember what that was
It was
like?
Instagram. It was
Yeah.
actually Instagram. I saw how you talked about funnels and how you've got to have intriguing ways to get people your message. You've got to have a way to package that. And I was like, golly, that's going to be what I need because I've been trying it and I hadn't been doing it the right way. So yeah, I saw you through Instagram. I watched one of your little, I guess it was a video that you did, and I clicked on it, and it led to another video. And it was actually when I was sitting on the sideline of a LPGA event waiting to go on air. So
Nice.
that's where I first saw it, and I was like, well, let's get this thing going. And then I reached out, and the rest is history. But yeah, it's you gotta you. I mean, you clearly know internet marketing, and that is you've got to be with someone that knows that because I don't care if you think you know it, you've got to have a secondary voice to really have a feedback loop, really, because I made a lot of mistakes. I knew I didn't know it, but I've learned a lot from it, and consequently, I'm in business with two of my best friends with a under par consulting, which is a recruiting placement for junior golfers, helping them. And he's had a very successful business for 3, 4 years. And he's like, I thought I knew this stuff, and Dan's really helped him. His name's Mike Burson, um, and I think again that's a guy who thought he knew what he was doing, and he realizes he's got a more potential on the upside through what he's already done with Dan.
Yeah, and it's not too dissimilar than any golf coach who is working with any subsegment of players. Like, why would even the best players have coaches, right? So throughout Tiger's career,
He
he
had
had a
too many.
coach. Yeah, he had too many, probably. Yeah, but and made too many swing changes. But he's
Yes,
the GOAT, so hey, we can't really
he
say anything.
is. Yeah,
So but even the best player in the entire world, who probably would have been the best in spite of what he did sometimes, and you think about MJ and Phil Jackson, like everybody has coaches in this process, and there's just levels to all of these different games that we play. Business and internet marketing is just the game that I love and am at the best at. I'm a golfer, avid golfer myself. I'm not that great. Me and Trip haven't had the fortune to play together yet, but he'll still kick my ass. I even
I can help
though,
your game too. So
yeah, yeah,
got to
yeah,
play together. Yeah,
yeah, but that's like, in my game, like I have coaches for golf because even though I love it, I'm a student of the game. I'm a nerd when it comes to that stuff. Like that's not my domain expertise. So I hire other people to help me with that. And it's the same thing with business. It's like if you're trying to go about this on your own, just picking stuff off the internet, constantly consuming content from all these different people, all these different voices, it can help a lot just like you would tell your students to get off of YouTube and stop taking swing tips, it can help a lot to go find somebody that you resonate with and that you think can provide some domain expertise in this area. And even if they give different advice than somebody else would give, just having a simple path that you can focus on and follow will help a lot than randomly picking things out there on the internet and trying stuff. And that's where you end up wasting a year of trying a model that like just doesn't make any sense
yeah.
with where you're at.
I was guilty of that for sure.
Yeah, the I love to transition to into kind of future plans. What what we kind of think this is going to look like moving forward. What are the goals for TMMS and just the business and helping junior players play at the next levels?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things like you and I have talked about where it will start to feed itself and it becomes self-fulfilling. So and then it'll just be a simple how much money do we spend on ads to generate this and we'll pretty much have a model where we know if we do X, Y, and Z, then we're going to get A, B, and C. And I look, I enjoy it. I do know they're not going to let me talk on Golf Channel for till I'm 80. I do realize that, but I can coach juniors well into my 70s, and as long as I enjoy it and see them get the fulfillment of the light bulb going off and starting to play their best golf, that to me is worth every bit of it. So I hope it continues. It's and one of the things too is Dr. Bob Rotella's aging as well. So I think it's a way to kind of carry on his legacy for what he and I did together in that series that we did, 15 years ago. So I think I'd love to a year from now see where we are from where we are today, and I'm pretty damn confident it's going to be where it's a pretty successful, generating a certain amount of money per month that would be a goal of mine. I'm not going to set that goal yet, but I certainly think that it has the potential to do it with where I was to where I am now and where I feel like I'm going.
Yeah, I love it. I'm actually a fan of that, not setting like too hard of a target because it's kind of like it'd be like the same in golf where you have expectations around shooting a certain score.
Yeah.
It's very hard because things are variable and time will change. The only variable that we can't really control is the time. So we're just like, we're focused, just like you would tell your junior golfer, focus on the process and
Hmm.
have process goals instead of outcome goals. That's what I love to do for business as well. Focus on process goals versus outcome goals. And then the only variable is like time when it happens, because it's definitely going to happen. So, awesome. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me, Trip. I think this will be
Sure.
super valuable for anybody that listens in, that is considering potentially the models and how to effectively market themselves and brand themselves online. And yeah, any parting words for anyone that's listening?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, absolutely. I've enjoyed our relationship. We've become friends. I consider you a friend, and I will tell you this: if you're out there and you've got any questions, schedule a call with Dan and just hear what he has to say because it will be worth the time and the money that you spend. You get every dollar of that back and then some, and that's really worth it because you need to be with an expert, especially in this field, and Dan clearly is that.
Awesome. Thanks, Trip.
You got it.